Hello everyone, welcome back. Today also we will be continuing with the chapter 2, that is the nationalist movement in Indo China. Okay, so we will be looking into uh, the points which are given. Okay, so in our last class what we did was we discussed about which nations were considered as Indo China. Okay, and we studied about how the French had keen interest, okay, in occupying this territory, and we learned about why and how the French people, they wanted to acquire Indo-Chinese region. Okay, so what happened was, first a priest came. Okay, later what happened, the priest came but nothing much happened. Okay, but it was only in the later part what happened was they were able to come, have a wage or have a war with China, and then captured the regions of present day Vietnam. Okay, so we studied about all this, and what were the changes which were brought by the French when they started to land up in Vietnam. We've discussed that in our last class. So today we'll be dealing with the rest of the topics. Okay, so we will be dealing with how infrastructures were built in order to meet the demands of the French. Okay, we'll be studying about colonial education and what type of language was being used by the French people in educating the masses. Okay, so we will start off with it one by one. Okay, so today's topic was like how the French built infrastructure in order to expand their economy. Okay, without having a factory, without having a building of their own, okay, what happens is they will not be able to expand their territory. Okay, so what happened was, when the French first came to Vietnam, they wanted to expand the infrastructure. They wanted to build more infrastructure in order to accommodate as well as to earn more profit, okay, from the Indo-Chinese countries. Okay, so what happened was their main motive was to make forced labor. Okay, so they come to a new state or they come to a new country, they are not going to bring their slaves from France, they are not going to bring people to work from France. Okay, what they did was they came to Vietnam. Okay, they came to Vietnam and they took the people of Vietnam, the native people of Vietnam, as laborers. Okay, they took them as laborers in order to build this infrastructure. Okay, without them, because if they bring slaves from their country, it would be very expensive. Okay, so the best way was, okay, to take the people from Vietnam, okay, to take the people from Vietnam and make them as laborers. Okay, and also most of the Vietnamese were forced into indentured labor. We've studied about indentured labor. Okay, indentured labor is nothing but it's a kind of slavery, okay, where you sign a contract stating that you will work for the French people, you will work for the British people for 5 years, and after which you would be released. Okay, so this was like a bond which was signed by the Vietnamese people as well. So that is called as endangered, okay, endangered labor. Okay, so besides rice cultivation, rice was the main form of crop which was grown for the French to expand their economy. Okay, so rice was grown, but with this also they wanted to earn more. So what happened, they even introduced rubber cultivation, rubber plantation. Okay, in order to improve their economy. Okay, so what happened, a large number of Vietnamese people were working as endangered labor in the hands of the French people. Okay, so next is the rice cultivation and rubber plantation were owned by mostly the French people and some rich class Vietnamese people. Okay, so this was earned mostly, okay, this rice and rubber plantation were handled mostly by the French people, and likewise in India also. Okay, it was handled by the British, but a few number of rich Indians, okay, managed to become zamindars and landlords. Okay, same as that. Okay, in India also the French people became the dominance in rice as well as rubber plantation, with few Vietnamese, okay, who were rich enough. They were handling the plantation work, and for this exporting of goods, they started introducing railway and ship services, okay, port services, okay. These were set up in order to make as well as transport these products at a very fast rate, okay. If you transfer it with a block cart, it will take time, okay. So what they did was they introduced railways as well as shipping ports in order to transfer this product from Vietnam to the French countries. Okay, so by this time, okay, we can see that a lot of resistance was starting to come out, because most of the people, they also started knowing that these French people were exploiting the people of Vietnam, and so large resistance came up. Okay, so different sections of the society, they joined hands and they started to fight against colonialism in Vietnam. Okay, so the French had to face a kind of a resistance, or a kind of protest from the people from 1887 till 1954. Okay, so we could see that the Vietnamese people, they learned from a very early stage that these people are trying to ruin their lives. Okay, so they started resisting against them. Okay, next is colonial education. Okay, likewise the colonial education. Okay, so what happened here was, like any other European, like any other powers, what happened was the French also wanted to educate the Vietnamese people, because they thought that the Vietnamese were uncivilized. Okay, like the British also came to India, and they saw that the Indians were uncivilized, and so they wanted to educate the Indians. Okay, but mainly was because in order to occupy the posts in the British offices that happened in India. Likewise, the same thing happened here in Vietnam also. Okay, the French, they were a colony. Okay, they were developing the economy. Okay, economic sphere, they were developing, no doubt. Okay, but in the education sector, they thought that Vietnamese people were very backward and uncivilized. Okay, and the French thought that they were the most civilized being, and so it's their duty to civilize the Vietnamese people. Okay, so they thought that they were more advanced and they were more civilized. Okay, and so they did not care, okay, whether they destroyed the Vietnamese culture, okay, or their religion as well as their tradition. See, with the Nagas, we also have our own traditions, we have our own customs, right? But when modernity swept in, okay, everything started to change. Likewise, okay, the French, they did not care about the culture, customs, traditions, and religions which the Vietnamese people were following. They wanted to change everything. They wanted to wipe out the Vietnamese culture, their tradition, their religion, everything, okay, and bring a more advanced culture into the Vietnamese country. Okay, so that was how the French wanted to modernize education in Vietnam. Okay, so next is, how far could they go, okay, to educate the Vietnamese? Okay, how far will they go in educating the Vietnamese people? Okay, so that was the question. So that was the question. So would they go very far? Okay, would they go very far educating them up to big standards, and then later the Vietnamese criticizing the French? Okay, so that was one problem. Okay, even if they bring in education, once the people in Vietnamese learn about their rights, when the people learn about their basic rights, what is happening in their country, okay, they might question, they might challenge the authority, they might question the French authority. Right, the same thing happened in India. When Indians were educated, they began to know about their rights. They began to question the British people. So the same thing happened here. Okay, they were thinking, if they educate to a very large extent, the educated mass will start dominating them, will start to question them, will start to challenge them. What are you doing in my country? Okay, so that was the question. Also, another thing was, if these Vietnamese people were educated, okay, their job, the French people, their job was educating the people, the shopkeepers, policemen, okay, or any other job. Maybe most of the jobs were occupied by the French people. Now education is taking place in Vietnam, so most of these posts, now once they graduate from the schools and colleges, what will happen is they will search for a job. So they will search jobs which the French are doing. Okay, so now that was also a problem, and the French people had to think about that as well. Okay, so how far would they go on educating the masses? Will they educate them to a very high level and then let them criticize them, let them take away their job? Okay, so that was the question that pondered upon the common people. Okay, next is relating with the language. Okay, in India also, when the British came, okay, there was a problem with vernacular languages, native languages, okay, and English. Okay, so likewise the same thing was happening here, whether they would be taught with French or whether they would be taught with Vietnamese. That was the point. Okay, so like like any other thing. Okay, the British example, the British in India, okay, they also wanted, like I said, they also wanted to educate the Indians, but problem arise with Vietnamese. Okay, Vietnamese, whether to speak whether to speak Hindi, Sanskrit, or Urdu, or to bring English. Okay, that was the question. The same thing was happening in Vietnam also, whether they would be taught with the French way of French way of education using French language, or to educate the mass by using Vietnamese language. Okay, whereas, okay, the Vietnamese society was a culmination of so many diverse people. So what happened was, the rich Vietnamese people, they were very much influenced by the Chinese culture. Okay, they were so influenced by the Chinese culture, so they started taking education in Chinese language as well. Okay, so what happened was, the French people did not like this, and they wanted to destroy and crush down the Chinese culture which was existing in the Vietnamese society among the rich higher class. Okay, so the French, they wanted to crush down, okay, the existing culture and traditions which were going in Vietnam, and they wanted to bring a new education system. Okay, and they had two suggestions which were offered, okay, in order to solve the problem, whether they would speak Vietnamese or English. Okay, so the first suggestion was, okay, educating the people in Vietnam, okay, by using French language. Okay, so this was offered by or suggested by some people, okay, that the medium of instruction, medium of educating the masses should be in the French way. Okay, because this would make Vietnamese familiar with the French, as well as the Vietnamese would also know the French culture more better. Okay, and what happened is that they suggested that this first group of people suggested that it would create an Asiatic France. Okay, a state or a country, okay, a country which will be like French in Asia. Okay, so what happened was, the first group suggested for educating the people through French, okay, and the second masses, okay, or the second group did not agree with the first group. Okay, and they say that Vietnamese should be taught in the lower classes, okay, and once they reach some higher classes, okay, they would be taught with French. Okay, so that was the second opinion which was given by the group of people. Okay, so likewise, okay, what happened was, those people, after, they reach the higher classes, they will take French, and if they are good in French, they can follow the French culture, okay, and also later they would be given French citizenship, okay, so they will be like French people and they can go to France as well, okay. So that was the second suggestion which was given. Okay, so what happened was, okay, textbooks were introduced by the French people, okay, and they claimed that, okay, in the textbooks they claimed that the colonial rule was benefiting the Vietnamese people. Okay, so according to the French, okay, according to the French, the Vietnamese people were very backward, okay, they did manual work, okay, agriculture, that was the thing. But when the French came, they started civilizing the people, they started, bringing development to the country of Vietnam, were written in those textbooks, okay. So, and in these textbooks, the French also boasted about themselves, okay, and they say that they are bringing peace as well as order in Vietnam, and people could live in peace, especially peasants, farmers, okay. So that was what was written in the textbooks of the French textbooks, which were published by the French people. So reaction of the Vietnamese in the school. Once the Vietnamese started, being educated in the French way, what were the reaction? Okay, so the teachers and students in the lower as well as in the higher classes, they defied all the instructions which were given by the French. Okay, and what they did was they focused only on their own curriculums. Okay, yes, no doubt the French brought their textbooks, but what happened, the Vietnamese people used their own curriculums in order to educate the Vietnamese people, because they were like protesting towards the French people. And one incident, okay, which boosted the Vietnamese to fight was, okay, what happened was there was a school. Okay, there was a school called as the Saigon Native Girls School. Okay, so what happened in 1926, okay, a native girl, a Vietnamese girl, was seated inside the classroom. Okay, so what happened was the teacher told that girl, specifically that girl, to move out from her chair. Okay, to move away from the chair, because those seats were reserved for local French students. Okay, these seats were for French students, not for you, and she was chased out from the seat. Okay, so what happened was she refused to move away from the seat because she was also a part of that class, and so she refused to move away from that bench where she was sitting. Okay, so what happened was, next, the principal of the school, who was also a Frenchman, okay, what he did was, okay, he scolded the student, okay, and he expelled that student because she did not give the seat to the two French students. Okay, so what happened was, when that happened, conflicts began to arise. Okay, conflict began to arise, and what happened, the other students who were sitting inside the classroom also started to protest against the principal. Okay, so when matters went out of the hand, the government of that time, okay, the French government, they had to intervene. Okay, and the principal was forced to take back the student. Okay, but what happened was, the principal, it went into the hands of the government. Okay, and the government told the principal to take back the students. But when the students were taken back, the principal, okay, warned the students, saying that he would crush all the Vietnamese people living here. Okay, and he also threatened that he would leave Vietnam only when there was no Vietnamese left in Cochin, China. Okay, so what happened was, the principal was so angry that he told the student that, he will crush all the Vietnamese students and he will not leave any Vietnamese in Cochin, China. Okay, So that happened. When that happened, all the students in Vietnam began to protest. A large protest broke out in Vietnam. Okay, so which was we can see that a lot of reaction happened, mixed reaction happened when education was introduced, and when this particular principle did such kind of thing, students were angered, and it was not only the student masses which came about, but other people also joined the fight. Okay, so what happened was, when things got worse, okay, parties were formed. One party was the party of the young Anand. Okay, so what happened was, they wrote a journal supporting nationalism, and it was published, called as the Ananist Student. You can underline that. Okay, so what happened was, so this was like a triggering point for the students to fight against independence towards the French people. Okay, so we could see that slowly by slowly progression is taking place, okay, where people are starting to fight for independence. Okay, so that is all for today. We will deal with the next topics in our next class. Thank you and have a nice day.